The little girl stood quietly beside the park bench, clutching the straps of her faded backpack, as if it were the only thing holding her together. Her voice was so soft it almost disappeared in the warm afternoon breeze. She whispered, "Can I sit with you?" The man on the bench looked up from his coffee, surprised. He had been watching the ducks glide across the lake, trying to enjoy one peaceful moment in a day that had already felt too heavy. The girl's eyes were cautious, tired in a way children's eyes should never be. He nodded gently, moving his bag aside. And just like that, two strangers, one lonely little girl and one quiet single father, shared a bench under the golden daylight, neither realizing that this small moment would change both of their lives forever. Before we continue this emotional story, take a quick second to support the channel. If you believe kindness can change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to Heartfelt Stories for more real and inspiring moments like this. The man's name was Adrian Croswell. To the world, he looked like any ordinary father spending a quiet afternoon in the park. His clothes were simple, his shoes slightly worn, and his posture carried the calm fatigue of someone used to responsibility. But what no one in that park knew was that Adrian was quietly one of the wealthiest men in the city. Years earlier, he had built a technology company from a tiny apartment while caring for his infant son after his wife passed away unexpectedly. Those years had been brutal. Long nights coding while a baby slept beside his desk. Mornings filled with grief he didn't have time to process. By the time his company exploded into a billion-dollar success, Adrian had already learned something many rich men never did. Money didn't fix loneliness, so he kept his life simple. No luxury cars, no flashy suits, no attention. Just a quiet routine with his 7-year-old son, Milo, who was currently feeding breadcrumbs to ducks a few feet away from the bench. The little girl sat down slowly beside Adrian, leaving a respectful distance between them. Her shoes were scuffed, and one lace was tied into a messy knot that had clearly been there for days. For a while, she said nothing. Adrian didn't rush her. He simply watched Milo laugh as a duck flapped its wings dramatically over a crumb. After a few minutes, Adrian noticed something. The girl wasn't watching the lake. She was watching Milo, not with jealousy, with longing. It was a quiet kind of look children have when they're remembering what happiness used to feel like. The sunlight filtered through the trees, casting soft shadows over the bench. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked happily while joggers passed along the trail. But the girl remained still. Adrian's father instinct stirred. He had spent years learning to read small emotional signals from Milo, tiny shifts in posture, silence that meant sadness, smiles that were hiding worry. And this girl was carrying something heavy. Her backpack looked older than she was. The zipper was broken, and the fabric had been sewn carefully by hand along one side. She noticed Adrian looking at it, and quickly pulled the bag closer to her lap. Not embarrassed. Protective. Adrian felt a quiet ache in his chest. Milo eventually ran back toward the bench, cheeks flushed with excitement. He stopped suddenly when he saw the girl. Children have a way of sensing when someone else feels out of place. Instead of asking questions, Milo simply sat on the ground and began drawing circles in the dirt with a stick. The girl watched him again. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. Minutes passed in gentle silence. Then Adrian noticed something else. The girl hadn't blinked much, not because she wasn't paying attention, but because she was fighting tears. Her lips trembled once, then steadied. Adrian carefully spoke, his voice calm and warm. He asked if she was waiting for someone. She hesitated, then shook her head. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. She said she just needed somewhere to sit for a while. Adrian nodded slowly. He didn't push further. Sometimes kindness isn't asking questions. Sometimes it's simply allowing someone to exist peacefully beside you. The afternoon sun grew brighter, warming the park with that golden daytime glow that makes everything feel softer, safer. But then Adrian noticed something that made his heart sink. The girl's hands were shaking. Not slightly, badly. Her stomach growled, loud enough that even Milo heard it. The girl quickly covered her belly with both hands, face turning red with embarrassment. Adrian felt something tighten deep inside his chest. Without making a big deal of it, He reached into his bag and pulled out a wrapped sandwich and a juice box. He placed them gently on the bench between them. He didn't offer. He simply set them there. The girl stared at the food. Her eyes widened. For a moment, she didn't move. Then slowly, as if afraid someone might take it away, she picked up the sandwich. She ate carefully at first. Small bites, then faster. Hunger always wins. Adrian looked away politely to give her dignity. Milo smiled at her with a crumb-covered grin. Soon the juice box was empty. The sandwich wrapper folded neatly beside her, and the girl's shoulders finally dropped in relief. For the first time, she looked like a child instead of someone trying to survive the world alone. But then something unexpected happened. A sudden loud voice echoed across the park. A security guard was approaching, clearly irritated. He had likely noticed the girl sitting there alone. His voice carried a tone that made it obvious he assumed she didn't belong. He demanded to know where her parents were. The girl froze. Fear rushed across her face instantly. Adrian stood slowly, calm, composed. The guard repeated the question, now looking impatient. Adrian placed a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder and spoke quietly. He told the guard she was sitting with him. The guard looked Adrian up and down, clearly unimpressed by his ordinary appearance. But Adrian's calm confidence was impossible to challenge. The guard eventually muttered something and walked away. The girl's eyes filled with tears again. But this time they weren't tears of fear. They were tears of relief. Adrian noticed something then. Something important. The name stitched carefully onto the girl's backpack. Arya. He realized this wasn't just a child passing through park. This was a child trying to hold herself together. And something about that hit Adrian deeply. Because years ago, after his wife passed, he had felt exactly the same way. Like someone small standing alone in a world too big to handle. The sun was beginning to shift across the sky, and families around the park slowly began gathering their things. But Adrian wasn't thinking about leaving. He was thinking about Arya. He had spent years building companies, creating solutions, solving complicated problems. Yet the simplest moment, a hungry child needing a place to sit, felt more important than any business deal he had ever made. He looked at Milo. Milo looked at Arya. And Milo did something beautiful. He scooted closer to her and offered the stick he had been drawing with. Arya blinked in surprise. Then she took it. Soon the two children were quietly drawing shapes in the dirt together. A sun, a house, a little crooked tree. Adrian watched them with a quiet smile. And for the first time in a long while, he realized something. The world didn't need more wealthy men. It needed more moments like this. More benches, more patience, more quiet kindness. Because sometimes the smallest acts become the biggest turning points in someone's life. And Adrian had a feeling this afternoon wasn't random. It was the beginning of something neither of them expected. Before the story reaches its final moment, we have a small request. Please write "Kindness still exists" in the comments if you believe even one small act of kindness can change someone's life. As the sunlight softened toward evening, Adrian made a decision that would reshape more than one future. He asked Arya if she would like to walk with him to the small cafe across the street, not as charity, but as company. Arya hesitated, then slowly nodded. What she didn't know was that the quiet man beside her owned several buildings in that very neighborhood. What she didn't know was that the ordinary father beside her had quietly funded schools, shelters, and scholarships across the city. And what Adrian didn't know yet was that this brave little girl sitting beside him would soon remind him why he had worked so hard in the first place. Not for wealth, but for people, for moments, for hope. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe to Heartfelt Stories so more people can experience powerful stories like this. Because sometimes the most life-changing moments begin with just 5 simple words. Can I sit with you?